following presentation is controversial and may be offensive to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Radio from the heart of America now.
Let me get straight to my next guest. My next guest coming up in this segment is Scott Greer. Scott is an editor and columnist at the Daily Caller. His work has appeared on the Drudge Report, at Real Clear Politics, on the Fox Nation, at Breitbart, and numerous other media outlets. It's my pleasure to have Scott on the show with us. He's just written a brand new book published by W&D Books Publishers, and it's already a blockbuster bestseller. It's called No Campus for White Men. I love that, Scott. No Campus for White Men. And the subtitle is The Transformation of Higher Education into Hateful Indoctrination. Scott, I don't know if you've looked lately, but it's running right now in the top 0.5% of all the books, the best-selling books at Amazon. Millions and millions of books. Yours is in the top 0.5%. Plus, it's number one in the category of cultural policy, and it's just been released. So congratulations, man, on this book.
Yeah, thanks, Carl, and thanks for having me on. It's very timely, the reason why it's selling so well. I mean, with riots that we just saw this week, I think a lot of people want to understand what the heck's going on campus right now. Yeah,
no, listen, I think you're right. And the title of your book is very thought-provoking, and I'm going to go ahead and say provocative. No Campus for White Men. So tell us very quickly, what's the main foundation, the main platform of your book, the main message, and then let's get into some of the details, and let's talk about what happened at Berkeley, what happened with Milo, and how that all applies to everything that you've written about. But give us the main platform for your book, No Campus for White Men, Scott Greer.
Yeah, the main thesis of the book is that identity politics and victimhood culture are kind of ruining higher education. And in the way the title No Campus for White Men relates to how this new moral culture that's being created on campus, which prioritizes victims, people who claim victimhood, and minority identity groups, protected classes, and that leaves white men at the bottom of the moral hierarchy. They're terrible people, they're sinful, they're evil, everything is wrong with them just simply because they're white. No matter what their beliefs are, no matter their background, all white people are racist, and thus they're at the bottom of the moral hierarchy created on college campus. So that's really kind of what the title is getting at, that all these things that are going on college campus are driven primarily by identity politics and victimhood culture, and it leads to free speech being suppressed, dissenting conservative viewpoints not being allowed to air, and all these types of things. And so now kind of switching gears over to what happened with Milo at UC Berkeley. We saw this a lot, what was happening. Basically, now some of the people who were involved in this rioting were not students. These are kind of professional agitators. They live for disruption, for protesting any right-wing event. That's their job. They're professional anarchists, as Donald Trump said today on Twitter. And a lot of these people were able to commit violence there. But the thing is, and that's a lot of people have been saying, well, these weren't students, so you shouldn't blame the school. But the reason why they were able to commit violence and have kind of the administrators and fellow students just stand by and let them assault people just for having different points of view is that college campuses are safe spaces for anti-Trump violence.
Yeah, for snowflakes, yeah.
Absolutely. And when they have this, it's a provide safe space for the people who can claim victimhood status that like, I'm a victim, I'm oppressed. I need a safe space. They'll do that. But if you are a Trump supporter, it's okay to beat you with a shovel.
Yeah.
That's the message from Berkeley.
Yeah.
And what happened there is just, Milo Yiannopoulos is he's a writer at Breitbart. He's a gay conservative. He's just, he doesn't really have any views that are too outside the mainstream of conservative movement. I mean, he uses, he's very provocative, to say the least.
Yes.
But he went there, not very different. He just go there to do talk. This is America. We're built on free speech. He just went there to give his point of view. And people just decided to riot and
burn the place down. Yeah,
absolutely. And there were celebrities celebrating what these anarchists were doing.
So are they like haters? Are they like homophobes? I mean, what's the deal? I mean, if I burnt a place down because Milo showed up, they'd call me a homophobe. What do we call these little snowflakes? What do we call them?
Well, they are full of hate. I mean, you can call them haters, but they hate these people. They hate people with differing points of view, and they want to use violence against them. They were all, spraying the graffiti, "Kill Trump, kill Trump." That's calling for the killing of our president. Imagine if that had happened. Roles reversed. This is Obama's in power, and people are saying, "Kill Obama, kill Obama." That would have been like the number one story outrage. They would have wanted life sentences for anybody who had written that.
Yeah.
Now that you write "Kill Trump," people in the media just shrug.
Yeah. Can you
or
imagine?
Even celebrate it.
Yeah. Can you imagine if you at the Daily Caller wrote an article or an opinion piece to kill Obama, or if you and I were here on this show today saying, you know what, back in the Obama days, we just need to take him out. We just need to take him out. Can you imagine? I mean, besides you and me being visited with people in black suits and probably being in jail the next day, but it's unbelievable. But anyway, so your book addresses this. Do you think there's going to be a climate change with Donald Trump in office now? With this whole
it's already shifted. My last chapter in No Campus for White Men addressed how it was just written. I wrote all of the book, or most of the book, right before the election.
Yeah.
But I wrote the epilogue right after the election because there was just so much craziness going on when Donald Trump got into power, and it was a lot of my points that I was talking about in the rest of the book in No Campus for White Men were validated by Donald Trump's election. When he won, there were all these cry-ins on campus where the schools hosted all the students could come to one place on campus and all cry together just because their candidate for president didn't win. It's kind of ridiculous. And all these other people marching on, saying he's not my president, and then all these them demanding administrators to make their campus a sanctuary campus where illegal immigrants could just come for free and loaf around and break the laws of the land. And all these things were happening. And I think with Trump, there's two things. One, we're seeing is that the campuses are getting way more radicalized right now with him just in power because people are just freaking out. They think they have the moral legitimacy to commit violence against people that they have different points of view with. And so it's becoming much more radicalized from the left. Now, the second thing that's happening is that Donald Trump, with the bully pulpit he has as president, is able to go after a lot of the insanity that's going on campus. I mean, he said this on yesterday morning, on Thursday, right after the riots happened in Berkeley. If UC Berkeley is not going to protect free speech, we're going to cut off federal funding for that. And that sends a strong message to these administrators to start cracking down on a lot of the craziness that's happening. They have to protect free speech. They cannot let these campus leftists just run wild and shut down people that they disagree with.
Right. Hey, listen, Scott, here's what I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and take a time out because this is some good stuff. And I've got some things I want to ask you, and I know you've got some things you want to say. So let's go ahead and take a time out. We'll be back in just a moment. My guest right now is Scott Greer. He is the editor and is an editor and a columnist at the Daily Caller. And, of course, his work's been seen all over Drudge Report, Real Clear, Politics, Fox Nation, Breitbart, et cetera, et cetera. He's written this brand new book, No Campus for White Men. Go to freedomfriday.com, Gallups on Facebook. You'll see all the links to all of it. Go to amazon.com, No Campus for White Men. Put that in. Get this book. It is amazing. We'll be back after this time out. Don't go anywhere.
Stuck in traffic and sick of normal radio programming?
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Are you serious?
Turn it up.
Personal file. He was giving them the business.
Say what?
Now that's official.
And now, the Commander-in-Chief is back. Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups, the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio.
All right, come on into the Oval Office. Welcome back, Gulf Coast. Welcome back, America. And welcome back, my next guest, Scott Greer. In fact, I say my next guest. He's my guest for this whole segment. And he is the author of a brand new book, No Campus for White Men. No Campus for White Men. The subtitle is The Transformation of Higher Education into Hateful Indoctrination. And Scott is no stranger to writing. He is the editor and columnist at the Daily Caller. His work appears on Drudge, Real Clear, Politics, Fox Nation, Breitbart, and numerous other media outlets. Hey, Scott, first of all, before we jump back into all of this, very interesting, by the way. I can't wait to read your book. That's hard to say. I can't wait to read your book. But in the meantime, tell people where they can find your work, where they can read your columns, and maybe if you have a website. I mean, just tell folks about you.
Well, if they're on Twitter, they can certainly follow me at Scott M. Greer. That's my handle on Twitter, and most of my work, all is on the Daily Caller, and most of my work will be there. So Scott Greer at the Daily Caller and Scott M. Greer on Twitter.
Okay,
so that's where they can find pretty much all my work.
Okay, you're saying Scott M as in Mary? Scott M?
Yep,
All right, Greer.
M as in Mary.
All right, Greer, Greer, right?
Yep,
okay.
That's me.
At Scott M. Greer, and that's how you can follow him on Twitter. Okay, good deal. And then your latest book, No Campus for White Men, published by WND Books, so you can find it at the WND Superstore. You can find it on Amazon.com and Books A Million, and everywhere good books are sold. No Campus for White Men, right?
That is right.
Okay, fantastic.
Everywhere else.
Yeah, it's just been released. It's already #1 in the category Cultural Policy at Amazon, #1 bestseller. In fact, it has a great big orange label by it. #1 bestseller in Cultural Policy. And there are thousands and thousands of books in that category, so for you to be at the top of that pile is amazing. It's just been released. And you're in the top 1% of all, I think there's like 15 to 17 million books on Amazon, and yours is, yours is in the very top 1% of that. 99% of the books of the world, your book is leading the pack. So God bless you, man, and good luck, and No Campus for White Men. So let's just jump back into this. So let me just say, you said earlier on something about how you know this atmosphere in our nation about all white people are racist and all that. Gee, Scott, where do you think that atmosphere came from?
The fact that all this atmosphere, that the thought that all white people are racist, is that where that came from? The thing is to realize is that it's pretty much being driven into these kids' minds that this is a nice idea to run with, that all white people are racist, and that this is almost how our country is built on, that they accuse America of being built on white supremacy, and they learn this in their education. I mean, this starts in some ways in grade school when they learn these ideas about America's bad, the white people have done all these injustices throughout the time, going back all the way to Christopher Columbus and sometimes even before that. They go through these ideas, and kids learn this from their teachers through grade school and goes into college, and it becomes a beneficial thing for them to realize if they are in a protected class. If they're able to imagine a certain group of people are all bad and all racist, and say if they're getting a political argument, they can just shut them down by saying, look, you have white privilege, you don't understand this, and, discussion is over. So that they kind of learn this idea. I think that's one of the worst things, is that education is kind of fostering these dangerous ideas and putting them into students' heads, and they feel that they get a benefit from repeating it. Yeah. And, in my humble opinion, these last 8 years has kind of been the exclamation point on the back of that sentence that you just spoke of. Because, America elects its first black president. And of course, I knew so much about the guy before he went in. I was pretty livid when he went in. But I wasn't a snowflake. I wasn't a marshmallow. I didn't need a safe space. I had my big boy pants on, and I just got on with life. And I hoped and prayed against all odds that perhaps by being America's first black president, that, but of course he was a community organizer. But I was hoping that maybe there could be some racial healing in our nation, But instead, he just put that whole that whole narrative on steroids, Scott, and Black Lives Matters and shooting cops and the whole bit. It was horrific. Yeah, absolutely. Whenever there was a police shooting of an African American or any controversial shooting of that instance, he would come in and weigh in, and sometimes that would give it the legitimacy of these cases. I mean, it was the same with Trayvon Martin. He said if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon. Yeah. And that kind of didn't help the situation at all. He made it worse. And he even started this out in the at the very first few months of his term when he had the beer summit to patch up when a Harvard professor was arrested by a police officer, and it became a big racial scandal, even though it was just a miscommunication that happened. Yeah. And for some reason, Barack Obama, over this minor incident, decided to weigh in and make it worse. Yeah. And under his watch, race relations have worsened. Oh, yeah. They've definitely worsened. He gave legitimacy to Black Lives Matter. He gave legitimacy to people thinking that these police shootings, which were often justified, and the media got the facts wrong before they decided to, judge it as a racial murder, he would weigh in and make it a lot worse and not do anything when there were riots. He'd give a very weak condemnation of these riots. So a lot of that has made racial hatred towards whites more permissible.
Yeah, he gave legitimacy to abject racism is what he did over and over and over. Remember when he said the police acted stupidly? Calling police stupid. I mean, Trayvon Martin, like you said, in that case, this guy could have been my son. It was reprehensible. And, just recently getting back to what's going on at Berkeley, because that's what your book is about. It's about this stuff that just happened at Berkeley. And your book is released, and then the Berkeley thing kind of, puts the exclamation point on the end of your book. It's unbelievable. But so did you hear that clip of House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi in her 2014 commencement address at the university? I think Michael Savage played it. He's claiming that she had a hand in what happened at Berkeley. Did you hear that clip, or did you read any articles about it?
I saw a little bit about it, but
yeah.
there is some sense that mainstream politicians and celebrities have given the cover for this type of actions, these type of violent actions towards their political opponents.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You talk a lot in your book about identity politics dominating college campuses. What do you mean by that, and what's the results of it? What's the impact?
Well, identity politics revolves around the fact that people, when they come to politics, it's not about reason or facts or any kind of ideological persuasion. It's all about their specific identity. If I'm a black man, my whole politics is centered on that. If I'm a gay man, my whole politics is the politics, where all politics is just based on what tribe you put yourself in. And on college campuses, students are rewarded for playing this kind of dangerous identity politics, because that basically puts people in tribes on campus where they are not seeing each other as fellow Americans or fellow students. They see them as an enemy. They see somebody who is not a part of their tribe, not a part of their identity, not as somebody that they can relate with, but as somebody who is a dangerous opponent who is trying to either threaten you or must be silenced. So but this is encouraged at the start of colleges. When it comes to the admission process, students who say that they're a minority have a better chance in the admissions process due to affirmative action to get into school. So if students have this benefit right at the start of their college experience, why not take it for the next 4 years and see what happens? And a lot of these students are starting to do that now over recently. So that's basically kind of the short gist of what identity politics is and how it's working on a college campus.
Right. And that's powerful. And your book contains all kinds of information like this. Folks, I'm talking to Scott Greer. His newest book, No Campus for White Men, The Transformation of Higher Education into Hateful Indoctrination, just released. And actually, I don't know that it's actually even released officially, right? No,
it's not even in bookstores yet. You can get it at Amazon. You can get it online. You can get it at the W&D Superstore, but you cannot get it at a physical Barnes & Noble yet, or any other great bookstore out there.
Yeah, but you like you just said, you can get it at Amazon and a few places like that. But people obviously are already getting it because it's already a #1 bestseller in cultural policy. It's in the top 1% of all books on Amazon. And I'm just looking, people are already reviewing it. There's 4 or 5 reviews already in. The book's not even officially released. They're all 5-star reviews. Listen to the titles. The summary is its own review. Essential reading, 5 stars. 5 stars. A far more dangerous book than Milo's forthcoming book. 5 stars. Excellent book. It mirrors my experience at UCLA. So people are loving this book, Greg. Scott. So tell us, you've got some famous people signing off on this, giving accolades to it and writing the foreword. Tell people about that.
Yes, Milo Yiannopoulos himself actually wrote the foreword for it. I reached out to him because I thought this is somebody who has had a lot of experience with campus insanity, and it would be great to have his own take on it to start off the book, and he was very kind enough to do that, and so he loves the book. And of course, Tucker Carlson, the Fox News host of Tucker Carlson Tonight, gave a ringing endorsement of it, and so did Diana West, who wrote a great book, who's written a couple great books about similar topics about how multiculturalism is ruining young generation, and she gave a great endorsement of it as well.
Well, that's awesome, Scott. Scott, thank you so much for being in the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio today. We'll have you back sometime in the future, but appreciate you. Best of luck to you and your book, No Campus for White Men. Scott, God bless you, man.
Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Folks, that was our guest, Scott Greer. We're at the bottom of the second hour. This next segment is going to be power-packed. You don't want to miss it.